I have many ideas and thoughts going through my head when it comes to this project. Even though I wasn't able to upload a new video last week, I accomplished quite a bit in the past few days. Currently, you could almost say that I'm building my own playground for experiments and all the ideas I have to try them out. I implemented some basic particles, added 3D text to make the whole site feel more alive, and most importantly for the future, added a debug UI. Since I feel like I still don't really know what I'm actually doing in three.js, I read a lot of the documentation, but mostly specific to React 3 Fiber and React 3 Dry. Through this, I found a lot of really good examples how others brought their ideas to life. For instance, I wanted to implement the particles and was just googling around to find some examples, but didn't really get anything that I was looking for. In the end, through the official React 3 Fiber documentation, I came across the getting started examples. In my opinion, this is a really great resource for inspiration and seeing how other people implement specific features. When I find a good example, I try to get a basic understanding of the code and how it is implemented, and try to add it in my own project with a small twist so I don't just copy and paste it. This usually works really well for me so that I can build my actual site faster and more efficiently later on. In this case, the first thing that I tried was to implement these bubbles based on the code sandbox, which of course I found through the examples. If we ignore the animation for now, this is actually pretty easy to implement. You can use the instances element provided by Dry. This allows you to create even thousands of objects, and you always have the ability to control how many are rendered with the limit and range properties. The particles are just an array of objects, including a few properties which are later used to calculate the movement of the bubbles. The bubble itself is just a React component which implements the use frame hook to animate each of them, and I mostly just copied the code because I have no idea what the math is actually doing other than making the bubbles move and scale in more or less random directions and sizes. The only thing I really changed here was the position factor, because the scale of my model was off and the bubbles were always way too large. In the future, I even think my math skills could become a limiting factor because they are really rusty. I kept playing around with a few more examples because I wanted to see how they would look like with my donut, or if it would spark any idea for my actual site later. One of them was using a renderer created with Spline, which made me want to try it out at some point because it looked really good. But I can't get lost in yet another tool right now. Most importantly, it also implemented the so-called lever debug UI, and it is actually really simple to use. But before we get into this, you might ask yourself, why would I even want to implement this? Well, the answer is quite simple. It makes your life a lot easier in the long run. Instead of having to change every single value and going back and forth all the time, you can just see the changes live on the website and play around with it until you find a configuration you like. To use lever, you just have to add this line in the root of your React app. And you're technically done. To fill the debug UI with the properties that you want to adjust, you can just use the handy use controls provided by the lever package. You can basically customize the properties to your exact needs. The only thing I wasn't able to figure out yet was how to display more decimal points. It seems like it's always limited to only 2, which sometimes restricts accuracy when changing values or reading them when you found a configuration you're satisfied with. If you want to take a look at the example yourself, I'll put a link to everything in the description. After that, I found a way better solution for my particle idea. It was actually a lot easier to implement than the bubbles earlier. This stars component uses the insphere function from the math package to create an array of 5000 random positions placed in a sphere with a given radius. The use frame hook basically just animates the rotation of the whole sphere. And that's actually all it does. Way easier than I thought. An idea which I wanted to try out later was that I wanted to add a subtle glitch effect to the particles. Now I wanted to spice things up with some 3D text. So the last endeavor I went on was trying to figure out how this works. Well, lucky me, this was also pretty easy. There is a dedicated text 3D element included in Dry. The only really important thing to keep in mind is that 3D text in three.js requires the fonts to be loaded via a JSON file, but this can easily be done with this tool. After that, I just added a mesh normal material to it because I think it looks really cool and I'm basically done. I actually wanted to animate the text when I hover over the donut, to avoid the donut clipping through the text, but I'm having a few issues. My first idea was that I could just increase the letter spacing to move the text out of the viewport, but the performance was so bad for some reason that I went on and tried a different animation. To stop the clipping, I thought I could just also increase the scale of the text to 1.5, but it randomly changed the position of the text to when the animation got triggered, and I have no clue why this happens. I'll try to figure this out the next days. Before this video ends, I really want to thank you all for your support and all your constructive and helpful and positive comments. I couldn't have imagined this would be so well received 3 weeks ago. This just motivates me to keep going and producing these videos. I'm having a lot of fun doing this and I'm learning so many new things. I'm actually still kind of overwhelmed. Also, 2 of you recommended that I should start a Discord server, so if you want to join, you can find the invite link in the description. This will probably be kind of messy in the beginning because I myself have never set up a proper Discord server, but I think it should be fine for now. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya!